I have a webcam on. I normally, well, at least the 3 videos that I've done, I'm not going to try and say that I've been making videos for a long time. So when I say normally, it's I'm talking about 3 times. My most recent videos, I've been doing kind of video capture or like screen capture as well as audio, where I just show code or something. I'm doing something on my screen and I don't show myself. I wanted to give the topic I'm about to talk about. I don't feel like editing a lot of different things on my screen or on your screen, I guess, to keep you entertained. So I'm just gonna do a video capture or a webcam and kind of go from there. So I 3 months ago I graduated from college. Okay, I am now, I'm looking for my job, yada yada yada. And I kind of wanted to talk about how it's going. And spoilers, not going great. It's I have notes here. I they're really short bullet points and they're not even in order, but it's kind of some stuff that I want to kind of cover. And so I guess we'll start off with so my background is I am a mechanical engineer. That's my bachelor's, and my master's is in robotics. I prefer the software side of things, but because of my mechanical engineering background, I have a lot of CAD designing and I was really like systems designing for like mechanical systems. But I've really started to branch into the mechatronics side of things and obviously the robotic side of things. And I really, 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 really enjoy the robotic side of things, like coding especially. But really, what I really like to do is design systems, code says systems, like integrate the actual sensors and hardware with the software and make a system that I can see work. That's what I like to do. So like one of the things I worked on was an AUV. It's an autonomous underwater vehicle. And my job was to make all the sensors and stuff work with the vehicle so that we can get the logic for the autonomous navigation. That was really fun. I really enjoyed that. Like it was so much fun. And since then, I feel like I've learned a lot more just kind of doing things on my own. But beyond the point. So I wanted to talk about my job searching, and I wanted to kind of this is more of a cry for help. Maybe not cry for help, but like a hey help. Um, and I wanted to complain a little bit because I like to yap, and I don't really know how to yap to this about. So, or yapping. So the first thing is I've been applying for about 3 months. Initially, like the first month or so, it wasn't super serious. I was just kind of using the resume. I really like just barely, or I didn't take it too seriously. And I sent them out to a bunch of different places, not really caring too much. As long as it had the right title that I wanted, that's the job that got the resume. And that didn't really, obviously, I didn't really get anything. So really, what I was searching for was software engineering jobs, robotic software engineering jobs, as well as mechanical engineering jobs. Like literally, I was just any job that said mechanical engineer and any job that said robotic software engineer. That's what I was applying for, and I didn't really care what the description was. I was just going boom, 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 boom. And I made my resume just based off what I thought a software engineer might like if it was the software job, what the software engineer would look like, and my skills, the projects I worked on, and for the mechanical engineering side, the mechanical side of stuff. I don't really have internships because, well, I didn't really. Well, there was a couple issues. The first issue was that the internships that were available were in the state that my college was in, and I didn't want. I was just not gonna. I just wasn't gonna move to another state for an internship, or try to commute many hours for said internship one way. So I didn't do that, and I didn't really look for internships here because honestly, I was kind of having fun, enjoying my time, and so instead, I used that time to do projects and better myself overall as a student and as an engineer. And I'm not gonna lie, maybe regretting that. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. because I've heard a lot of horror stories about the job market. Because I did my master's, everyone that I graduated with for my undergrad, um, I got to hear their side of the story, so I kind of already knew what was going to happen. so so I'm experiencing it now, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see where the problem is here. Um, so the B part is that I did projects, and or I don't even know what I was talking about, but I didn't do the internships, and so there's nothing to put on my resume in terms of internships. It's just projects. And like I worked at jobs in my school, like I was resident assistant, but like so what I was this is what kind of the issue is. I was told that you any job that you do, anything that you do can can be made to be relevant to the job that you're applying for. So, for example, as a resident assistant, it's a leadership type thing. So you can kind of configure it and word it in a way to where you show a lot of leadership experience and being able to work as a team. Engineers value working as a team. You're going to be working, in large groups or small groups, doesn't matter. We're going to be working as a team. So I would put that on there. And I was a teaching assistant for an entire space where we did tests. We did tests on physical materials to see what their breaking point is. Not relevant to software, but that was also like a leadership position. But for mechanical engineering, it's kind of relevant. Like I use machines to do things, and I got data, and so it's like kind of relevant to test engineers. Like I was literally just testing a bunch. So I was trying to that's my experience. That's technically my professional experience, and it was working for my university. So like that kind of stuff's on my resume, or was at least. And then it was my projects. That's how my resume was set up. And so I would apply for these jobs, and I would get nothing really. I would get rejections at best. Most of the time, there was nothing. And so I went through and I talked to people that I knew. The issue is that everyone I know. Well, okay, let me start by saying the jobs that I want is a robotics job. I am only trying to do, or I'm only applying to mechanical engineering jobs because I feel like, well, that's the other half of my experience as an engineer. And so there's a possibility that maybe, I could get some work experience now. Really, I'm only doing it because if I can't get a job, like if I can't get a robotics job, then maybe I could get a mechanical engineering job. That's kind of the thought process there. But in an ideal sense, an ideal world, I don't want a mechanical engineering job unless somehow it's relevant to robotics in a way that I find interesting. Then yeah, I don't mind, whatever. But most mechanical engineering jobs are really just like design engineering for parts or maintenance or something. Like I don't know. It's like it's not coding. Is kind of what I'm trying to say. It's not coding. It's not usually putting systems together and coding it. Like maybe you're assembling something, but you're not doing anything with it. Or maybe you're like testing it. And like I guess I would be okay with just testing a product out and kind of taking notes like, oh, this system, this robotic arm moving like this and that, and it's not supposed to do that. Like what the heck? That could be cool for a little bit. I'm sure that won't be that fun for very long. But I talked to some people who were really the only advice I could get was from a mechanical engineer. So I was talking to them, and they gave me a bunch of They gave me a couple recommendations for my resume, and the main one was to kind of fix it up a little bit. It was too crammed, and the wording was too complex. So she recommended kind of cutting it down a little bit, and that was about it. She didn't say remove this, remove that. She didn't say this is not relevant to jobs or anything. She just said, your formatting can be better, basically. So I fixed my formatting and I applied again, and there was nothing. I was getting nothing until one day I get an email from a company. Obviously, I'm not going to name the company, but I get an email from a company, and I get an interview. It was like literally it was from a job I had just applied for the day before with my previous resume. before I had updated it. It was like so crazy. It was basically like the last time I used that resume, and I got it. I got an interview. Let me also say that I have applied for about 60 jobs, maybe. I want to say anywhere between 50 and 80 jobs, and I've gotten one resume or one interview. I've gotten one interview. Anyways, back to the story. So I go ahead and I schedule my interview, and this is the only interview experience that I have. Right, I haven't had any interviews before that, so I was really nervous, and I prepared for this interview. I looked at my resume. I looked at the job description. I was like prepared to talk about everything in my resume. I was prepared to talk about everything in the job. If I didn't have any experience with something that the job description was talking about, I made sure to at least look it up and have some experience, some knowledge of the subject. And so I go into the first round of the interview, and about 10 minutes in, the guy says, "You're moving forward." Like, well, we'll go through the formalities. We'll talk about the next steps and all that, but we're moving you on. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I was on top of the world right there. I was like, oh, 10 minutes in, this is supposed to be a 30-minute interview, and I'm good to go. Okay, sure. And so I asked him. He asked me if I had any questions and yada yada. So I started asking him a little bit. I started prodding as to the process that like they filter out and stuff, because I was really curious. And basically, he told me that the reason why I'm moving on the reason why I got invited to be interviewed, as well as now moving on, is because the company is a military company, and one of their what's it called? One of their, why am I forgetting? Employers or buyers or whatever is the Navy. And so my AUV experience is what got me in the interview. The fact that I am working with underwater vehicles already in the robotic sense, great. The second thing, the reason why I got moved forward was because the person that they had interviewed previously and had hired was a swarm engineer. Well, that's basically what they got him for. And so I had some swarm experience. It wasn't anything crazy. Like, literally, it was a tiny little project. And so he was like, oh, like, that one wasn't on my resume. So when I talked about it, he was like, oh, really? And then you're like, all right, you're moving on. And he said to put it on your resume. And I was like, okay. I was like, really? It's just a tiny little project. It's not that big of a deal. And he's like, yeah, put it on your resume. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll put it. And so we didn't talk about anything else in my resume. Even though we went through all the formalities and we still talked about some of my experiences on that, we didn't talk about my resume much. We talked about those two things, just literally those two things. And he started talking about so I learned from, well, we'll get to what I learned about. But so he started talking about what the next round of the interview is going to look like. He said, like literally almost word for word, he said that, or not word for word, I'm going to sum it up. I don't feel like talking about word for word. He said that the next resume or the next interview is going to be initially about my resume, a little bit more in depth, with like technical questions about my resume, as well as technical questions about the job description. So those were the two things that I was told it was going to be about. So I go into this I keep saying that. I go into this interview, and I was so nervous. Okay, so I prepared so much for several days before this interview, for hours, and I go into it expecting to hear first thing. He starts the interview and he's like, "Oh, let me pull up your resume. Oh, I remember this resume." And I'm like, "You do? Oh no." I was like, oh my gosh, that's not good. And he's like, okay, yeah, I remember this. All right, so let's just jump into the technical questions. I'm like, I was like, oh, hold on. This is supposed to be 45 minutes, and I expected at least 10 minutes for my resume. Nah. So we went straight into the technical question. So I was like, okay, whatever. Like, all right, let's just get to it. Like, maybe that's a good sign. Whatever. And let me let me emphasize the fact that it's. I was told technical questions, plural. It was one question, and it was how would you basically. I don't even remember how he said it, but it was basically how would you design a drone, a 2-camera drone, one that's facing forward and the other camera that's facing downwards at an angle. How would you design that drone to be able to track another drone in the air? How would like the entire design process go? I was like, now let me say this is an entry level to mid level application. So they didn't let you specify if it was entry level or mid. So obviously they were looking for a mid-level engineer, because why the heck would you ask that to an entry-level engineer? Or at least why would you ask that in that way to an entry-level engineer who doesn't have any drone experience in his resume, mind you. So I shit my pants, not gonna lie. Did I do amazing or did I do terrible in the resume? I don't think I did terrible. Why do I keep saying resume? Did I do terrible in the interview? I wouldn't say so, but did I do anything? Did I basically how I, it's like my friends asked me, and the response I gave them was, I don't think I did bad, but I don't think I did anything to stand out. And so I know I'm not going to get the job. But it was just it was literally just, okay, we do this, we do that, we do this, we do that. And I'm talking, he's like, treat me, not me, but like the interviewer, treat me like I'm a PM, like a really dumb PM who doesn't know what he's doing. And so you got to explain it to him why something might be a good idea, might be a bad idea. So basically, again, what entry level engineer would ever even talk to a PM like that? I don't know. Apparently, it was supposed to be me. But I answered the questions, and I didn't answer all of them super well. There's a few that I didn't answer really well, and one of them was he basically said like, okay, cool. Like we went through a lot of the process, and we got it to the point where my drone is able to see images, and well, I guess one of the issues was no. I got it to the point where drone seeing images and reading the images, but for some reason the image is just not right. I'm like, not right. He's like, yeah, like how would you debug? How would you figure out what's wrong? And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty easy. Like I would go in and I would look at, I would use, we determined that we were using OpenCV, right? Yeah, CV2, whatever the library is. So I was like, you could just display the images and see where, like, you could kind of in parts of your code just kind of put that sentence in there, or that statement, and could determine where in the process is that image being distorted, or like what something's wrong. So where is it? And so he started describing some of the issues, and I said, oh, okay, well, it sounds like it's at the very beginning when you're processing the image, when you first gather it. And he's like, yeah, that's okay, good. And I was like, and he's like, and then what? How, and what would you do then? I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's in the beginning. And this is such a hypothetical question. This is such an abstract question. Like, I can't answer that without actually having a physical thing, a physical image, and you tell me, like, I look at it and first, like, something's wrong with it. And he's like, oh, the colors are off. Like, the colors are off. Like, I don't know. And I just like was stumped. I was like trying to talk to him. I was trying to talk to him about it. And eventually he just stops me and he's like, oh, I was looking more for you switch the RGB channels. And I was like, oh yeah, because in OpenCV the channels are BGR instead of RGB. Like I said exactly why you need, like I said exactly why it might be like that, but he gave me the answer, so whatever. And then basically the only other one that I wasn't very happy with my response is after we got the image and everything, and we had like a bounding box on the what was suspected to be the drone and a percentage of confidence. It was pretty good at determining what the drone was, unless obstacles were in the way. So, or we had trained a model to kind of get better at that as well. But even with the model trained, it was still not very confident that a drone was a drone when there was trees in the way or something like that. So I said, oh, okay, like, well, you can see where the drone's going, so why don't we just use a model to kind of predict the next position of the drone and compare it, see if it's good. I didn't say it that perfectly, but that's what I meant. Like, that's kind of what I meant, and he got what I meant. I know he got what I meant. And he's like, okay, but how would you do that? And I was like, what do you mean? You just take, like you just take the model, whatever model, like projectile motion, whatever you want, like, and track it. I didn't explain it well. And he's like, and then he stopped me, and he's like, oh, well, I was looking for like a common filter or something along that line. So I was like, okay, like we're in the same ballpark here. We're in the same ballpark. But sure, yeah, I wasn't gonna come up with that, to be honest with you, because I've never used a common filter. I mean, I very rarely used the common filter, but I've never used it for a camera. So I just didn't think about it. Whatever. And so it didn't go well. Those are basically the two questions that I didn't know how to solve, or I didn't answer them well. And so I got an email back a few days later, and it's a really big email. It's basically saying, sorry, you didn't get the job. And I was like I was pretty upset. I was pretty upset, but I knew it was going to happen. Like, I just knew right away that it was not going to happen. But I was told something. Among the fact that I was told that it would be about, that the second interview would be about my resume, and then technical questions about the job, I was also told at the end I would get feedback. So the recruiter, or whatever, not the recruiter, but the hiring manager or something would have notes for me to tell me, give me feedback so I can improve. Never received that. Never. Literally never. And when I was in the second interview at the end, he didn't give me any information either. So I feel like I was just lied to. I felt like I was set up for failure. And also the job I had applied for was, like, again, it was an entry-level job, and they were very much treating it like it was not. It literally said it was entry-level to mid-level. And I basically went, excuse me. I went to, so I was like, okay, this is not working. I'm applying for a bunch of jobs. I finally get my first interview, and it didn't go well, but I haven't been getting any interviews since. Like, some time has passed. So I go ahead and look at the career center for my university, and I have a meeting with this guy who gives me some advice, and he basically just says, like, who cares about your resume? Like, it's important, but you're basically just going to be sending it out to a bunch of jobs, and you're trying to get lucky. And he's like, you should be networking. I was like, okay. We had several talks, like, over the span of a couple of days. And at some point, he basically said the exact same thing as what he just said for resumes, he said for networking. And I was like, what the hell is going on right now? So I just stopped going to him. I should be networking, but at the same time, what am I networking for? Like, I don't. Basically, what I got out of it was I should network with other people so that I can learn some information about the field and yada, yada, yada. And maybe, possibly, maybe, like, literally just maybe a little teeny little shot, I'll get offered or I'd be told to go check out a job at their company and apply for it. Okay. I still kind of want to network just to get A, practice talking to people, but B, also to get a little bit more experience in the field without actually having experience in the field. But I'm more focused on, I was doing a lot of other things. I still am. And I was like, I don't think networking is the way to go in this case. Like, I really don't have anything to offer for networking. It really would just be me asking. So it's kind of something I'm trying to figure out how to do, but it's not something I was focusing on. So I need money. So I started a part-time job and something I don't want to do whatsoever and hate every minute of. Not that I hate every minute of, it's just not something I want to do, and I don't want to do it forever, and it's really monotonous. It's so boring, and I hate boring. So that's why I hate it. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm trying to look for a job. It's not like I want to work, but I have to, because I got 3 months left to get a job before monthly payments for loans start happening. I got 3 months left. That's all I got. That's what I got. So I got to find a job. So let's see, what else do I got to talk about? Oh, so at this part-time job, because it's so monotonous, I can listen to videos. And so at some point, somehow, I came across a video where supposedly a recruiter or a resume reader, I forgot what he called himself, but he reads resumes. And he was so harsh on these resumes, absurdly harsh. So the way he did it was, he would look up a job description, because basically his whole format was that he took his subscribers, he took his subscribers' resumes, and then obviously if it's not in a field that he knows, he looks up the keywords, and then he uses that to analyze the resume. And so what he does is he puts 20 seconds on the clock, and he reads your resume and sees how much he can get out of it. And he uses the metric of, before he even starts, he knows your resume sucks or not, because the person will say how many interviews he's gotten and how many jobs they've applied for. And so he was saying an okay resume or a good resume would get you an interview every 1 in 50 submissions, which I guess I'm teetering on a bad and good resume then. And a really, really good resume, if you follow his principles, would be 1 in every 7, which is a huge difference. That's crazy. So I'm looking, I'm like, okay, but let's see how a recruiter or whatever actually looks at resumes. And so what they do is they just forget about the 20 seconds. I mean, basically every single time 20 seconds pass, he says this person failed. But then after the 20 seconds, he goes through every single point in the resume, and basically he takes a white marker or whatever, and he just whites out everything that was not important. And what he defines as a keyword, or a qualification actually, is a keyword plus a bunch of information about why, how you did the thing that the keyword is supporting, basically. And he would go through and white out everything on a resume. And by the end of it, he'd say that you submitted a blank resume, and that's why you have a terrible resume. And I was like, wow, this is how recruiters look at resumes. I was trying to think about it. I was like, I mean, it kind of makes sense. The one interview that I got, the guy looked at 2 words, and they were the titles of the jobs I had. He didn't even look at the description. He just looked at AUV. Or really, it was literally just that. He just saw AUV. That was it. And then I said swarm, and he perked up and sent me to the next round. That was it. He didn't care. He quite literally didn't care about anything else on my resume. And so I now have gone through my resume, and I've basically taken my keywords. I went and looked at a bunch of the actual jobs that I want, the robotic software engineering jobs. I took those keywords. I looked at any job or any project that I had that had these good, like had these keywords, and then I turned them into qualifications. And I simplified everything. He was talking about simplification. He gave me or he gave everyone the format that he liked, yada yada. So I did all that, and I was like, wow, okay, this is what he wants. I even went into Overleaf and wrote the entire thing in latex because I was seeing that kind of floating around in other places. He didn't say anything about that, but I started doing it. I have experience in latex, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And I mean, it's only been a couple of days. I haven't gotten any responses, but I think I've applied for about 10 jobs at this point. And the thing is, too, like I can't say anything about it. I can't say if it worked or not because whatever, but I can say that if that's how they're looking for jobs, they don't care about anything. And like basically all my experience as someone who has not who doesn't have jobs previously, this is the first job that I'm like a real engineering job that I'm applying for. What prior experience do I have other than projects in school? I'm a recent graduate. Right. So like you're looking for entry level jobs. You're not going to get a mid-level job. But the only thing that exists are mid-level jobs. All the early, like literally all the early career or early jobs all say 0 to 5 years of experience or 0 to 3 usually. And then you apply for them, like I applied for them, and it's rejection. No feedback whatsoever. It's actually funny because the mechanical engineering jobs that I applied for, which are just literally just CAD, like the response I get is, you've been rejected for basically a candidate that they're moving on to a candidate with more qualifications, better qualifications. Like what qualification? It's CAD. We need to relax about the qualifications. Like, what are you talking about? It's not hard. And my buddy, his job is all about basically drafting. He's like a drafting engineer, or it used to be at least something he was doing. And he was describing it, and it's like, it's just CAD. It literally is just CAD. You're just doing CAD. That's it. I'm like, why am I getting like, what are you talking about qualifications? And then the robotics jobs, they all, actually quite a lot of them was either just you're rejected for the same thing. You're rejected for a candidate that has better qualifications, or it's, we're really impressed with, like, whilst we're very, very impressed with your background, we're moving on to other candidates. I was like, oh, it's like we're moving on to candidates with more relevant experience. I was like, what are you talking about? Relevant experience. This is robotics. My experience is in robotics. All my projects are robotics. What are you talking about? Oh, so like that's one issue is, and that's if you even find a job for entry level. If you don't find a job, like you don't, there's not many of them. There's not many for entry level, and there quite literally is none in my state. So I have to move. So I have to move, and I can't find any jobs. And then when I do find them, they're like, "Oh, we don't like you," basically, and with no feedback whatsoever. I don't know what to do. Excuse me, I keep burping, man. This is terrible. So, I don't know, it's like, this really is just like, what do I do? Because a big issue that I have, right, is that I can't find enough jobs to apply for that I am actually qualified in. And so the amount of jobs I'm sending out, or the amount of applications I'm sending out, is not that much. It's also a pain in the ass to send out a bunch of applications to jobs. I mean, it takes so much time. But it's also like I have other experiences and I really need a job. So it's like, what do I do? Do I go and get a job in mechanical engineering if I can even do that? But let's say I do, and it's something completely irrelevant to robotics, but I really want a robotics job. So what? I'm just going to stay at that job, pretend like I'm actually staying, Because jobs hate when they know that you don't actually want to be there or you're not going to be there for that long. So you gotta like pretend like you actually like your job and you want to be there. Um, so what, I just stay there and continuously apply for jobs like what I'm doing right now and hope that I eventually get a robotics job and I can even put my experience as a mechanical engineer into that resume because it's completely irrelevant. Like, right? And again, like I can't even find jobs really in my state, so I'm probably moving as well. So it's just added injury, right? Like I'm doing a job I don't want. I'm moving to a state that I don't really give a crap about, and it's gonna make my amount of money that I can pay off on my bills and my loans even less because I gotta pay for, like, I'm living in my parents' house right now, so like my expenses are really low. Ain't gonna be if I move. So it's like, do that, or that's if I get a mechanical engineering job, right? Or what? Do I get no job that's irrelevant at all to engineering, and I do the same thing? Like I just hope for the best and continuously send out resumes. Like what if I join a job, right, that requires me to move? Because that's probably what's gonna happen, and it's not what I want to do. And then I'm applying for jobs, and about 2 months after joining the job, I get my dream job, or I get a job in robotics. I just leave. Like I gotta go. I hand in my 2 week notice. Hope I get an apartment in that time and then move. Like, like what? Like what? What do I do? Um, I, I'm stumped. I really don't know. So I'm applying and doing my best. But like, what if that happens? Because that's very real. That could very happen. That could very much happen. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. I don't like the process. I don't like it at all. I don't like the interviewing process, the one I had. I did speak to some people and they said that the interviewing process that I went to, or the interview questions, like just, they literally said like that's not an interview style that they would have ever expected. Um, and some of them even said like it wasn't a fair question to begin with. And I was like, okay, cool. For an entry level position. So I don't know. I don't know. So I'm applying, doing my best, but it really, like, genuinely, it doesn't really look like some things, right? Like you can tell that you're not good at it, but then you keep doing it enough, and you can get pretty confident that you'll get good at it and you'll get results. I'm getting no feedback. I'm just trying things, throwing it at a wall and hoping it sticks because nothing, and I don't even know if it sticks. I don't know. I don't know. Um, and so it's just like, it really does feel like this will be an eternity. I will not find a job for a very, very long time. Internships don't want me, right? Because I'm already graduated. That's not what an internship doesn't want. Can't do co-ops. I'm not in school. Um, I don't know. So if whoever has actually gotten this far is actually listening, like genuinely, what do you do? Like, what do you do in this situation? Because I really don't know. What should I do? Um, you know, bills got to be paid, but some of these jobs do not be paying, and it's crazy. That's crazy. I look at some of these jobs as an engineer, an engineering job, and I look at it. I'm like, ooh, there's no way I can live off that with the bills that I gotta pay. There's no way. Um, um. So yeah, I don't know. I made this channel to kind of document my experience with just life, and I don't know what exactly I want to do with it. It's really open ended. Whatever I'm working on, whatever I'm trying to improve, whatever I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about it. So if you got any feedback on that too, what you kind of want to see, what you kind of want to hear, what you don't like, how I like what I do, what you don't like. If you like this format, like let me know. Let me know. Genuinely, let me know. I'm sure I'm not going to see a lot of people, so put a comment in there. I'll see it and I'll reply. So I'm just having fun, trying to enjoy my time while I still have some time. My part time is part time, so at least I don't lose 8 hours of my day every single day, not including commutes. So I'm enjoying my life until those 3 more months pass and we're in a bit of trouble. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. So see you.